Thank to Heaven's grace, virtues of masters, grand predecessor and predecessor, transmitters, lecturers, and everybody here are giving me the opportunity to share my research on grand predecessors. Last class, you already kind of preview the brief history of our grand predecessor. And this class, I'm going to share the it's called the Virtues and Teachings of Grand Predecessor, or he has another name in Chinese. It's called Bai-Shui Lao Ren.
Oh, small, so you might need to.
Yeah, that's
too small.
So small.
So how do I make it bigger?
I don't think they
In the
can.
back,
Anybody can read this? No.
So how do I make it bigger?
Well, you can't because that looks like it's a scanned image.
Yes, it is.
So you read it.
Okay, actually, I want to translate the way that I thought that it should be translated. Okay, so in the beginning it says the Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche. The Nietzsche analog stated here. In truth, man is a polluted river. One must be a sea to receive a polluted river without becoming defiled. It actually started right there, but the whole thing, it went on. I bring you the Superman, he is that sea, in him you great contempt can be submerged.
Ubermensch.
Oh.
Superman. Well, the German, yeah. Direct translation from the German.
It's Superman.
Ubermensch.
Yeah, he also said God is dead, right?
He's an atheist, right?
So he was a 19th century German philologist. Philologist and philosopher,
Well,
a thinker.
Are they the same?
Well, no, philologist is concentrating on languages.
Language.
Yeah, language. It's a human specializing in classical scholarship. Oh, okay. His focus is on the elevation of a human evaluation of a human conduct in a particular content. Yeah. Okay. So it went on, and
Who is that?
okay.
Is that a Buddha?
Well, yeah, he was sort of incarnated.
维摩诘
Yeah.
During the time of
This
Buddha.
one, well, the text also mentioned about in the opening of Vimalakirti Nirtisa Sutra, when the Buddha explained to, okay, this is in Chinese, so this is English.
Oh.
So when the Buddha explained to, I don't know the pronunciation very well, but it says Ratnakara and the 500 young Chivas about the purification of the Buddha field of the Bodhisattvas. The first one that the Buddha pointed out was straight heart is the purification of the Buddha field of the Bodhisattvas. It means that the entry to the world of Buddha or the Buddha land is to be able to act upon our straight heart. The purity of the Buddha field, the purity of his Buddha field reflects the purity of living beings. The purity of the living beings reflects the purity of his understanding of the truth. The purity of his understanding of truth reflects the purity of his doctrine, the sutra. The purity of his doctrine reflects the purity of his transcendental practice, cultivation. And the purity of his transcendental practice reflects the purity of his own mind. In this era, described as the final judgment, The last catastrophe that the generation of extinction of a dharma by many religions. By the way, lecture Lil mentioned once the Suragama Sutra disappears, the rest of the sutra will slowly disappear. Suragama is a sacred and a hidden sutra in the Buddhist temple. Manjushri spoke a great deal about how the world is formed, and Mara does not want us to know. We claim that the advance of science and human power conquers the nature. However, after a series of natural disaster in recent years, we should realize where and how the advanced science also has some negative impact. Also, it is said that the Buddha nature class by Lecture Liu that calamities are due to the accumulated karmas from the human beings. He also said that how the weather changes has to do with our thoughts and emotions. Our thoughts change too quickly, are unstable and unpredictable. Part of the cultivation is to train us to become more calm and still. Once we are calm, we will be able to think thoroughly, and any decision made will come from our straight heart, which would not create any karma. This is because our true nature is capable to avoid the two extremes, such as like or dislike. If we're stuck in either end, it is not Tao. Tao is a non-dualistic. Is that, did I? Okay.
You click too
Did I?
fast.
Maybe go back.
This
Go
one?
back.
I don't think you're.
Okay, maybe this one. Alright, so in such an environment, Sizun and Simu received the heavenly decree and brought salvation to the three realms. Anybody know what the three realms?
Yeah, we talked about last class.
Come on.
Raise your hand, Kai.
We talked about last class. Didn't we? Last week?
The three realms,
Kai knows.
the heavenly realm, and the underworld. And the underworld.
One more.
Human.
Oh, okay. Alright, so it's the heaven, mankind, and underworld. They also delivered the wonderful Dharma by guiding people's heart to the realization of our true nature and achieve their goals to the Buddhahood. Even though the cultivation was difficult and concept of Tao takes time to understand fully, people still propagated Tao earnestly and undertook all hardships without complaints and conducted the impossible missions. They led sentient beings to reveal their true nature and to guide them to the purity of their own Buddha field of the Bodhisattvas, and to fulfill Maitreya's vows to transform the secular world into the Lotus Land. However, while Tao was still being propagated worldwide, Sidran and Simu returned to the heaven, and our grand predecessor was ordained by Lao Mu to continue Sidran's unfinished great merciful vows. As we see from the video from last class, Grand Predecessor started his career with it's called his own company called the Long Dyeing and Textile Mill. The business became more and more prosperous under his diligent management. However, for his constant overwork, he was ill with incurable tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis.
See if you guys are awake. At age of 37.
Good job.
Then he received Tao and was greatly blessed with the mercy of Jigong Buddha, who snatched his life from the jaw of death. From then on, he was determined to propagate Tao wholeheartedly. He made vows to preach the gospel of the Almighty God, or our Lao Mu, and to bring salvation to the world. He said, "If I am able to recover from the disease, I will either let go, give up, surrender my business and family, and to devote myself to propagate Tao." Grand Predecessor claimed that he wanted to learn from Confucius for his entire life. He always talked about what saints and Buddhas said and what Sizun and Sumu passed on. It was similar to Confucius' idea of, I think this is it, passing on the ancient culture and not creating. 述而不作. That's what that is. So, I think it means, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it means sharing the results of collective wisdom from the saints and does not have anyone's own additives.
Interpretation.
Right, so he doesn't add anything that's his own. He's using the wisdom that's passed on to, over the years. And these are the pure wisdom of the saints and Buddhas. It is like Mencius said, when speaking, always make laudatory reference to Yao and Sun. So this is the Yan Bi Chen Yao Sun. Okay. Our grand predecessor is modest and would not take on any credits when things are done the right way. The next quote is from our Emperor Yuan Wuzong. He said, "Those saints who lived before Confucius could not be understood without him." This means people would never know about the saints if Confucius never mentioned about their names. 先重你而圣者，非重你而无名。
They may not be brought to like the limelight or become known to people.
Yeah, if
He didn't.
never
Because
mentioned
you
about their
often
names.
alluded to the words of
The grand predecessor always announced Sizun and Sumu's virtue and expressed his appreciation through words. He also built memorial halls and towels and purchased land for temples to fulfill Sizun's wish. However, he had a greater aspiration, which he wanted to come back to the human again for more Tao propagation. Anybody want to do that? Come back here, do more Tao propagation. He wants
We
to
don't know
do
until
that.
we go back first. Then we'll let you know.
We should feel fortunate and thankful that although we are not born in the period of Yao and Sun and are not there when Confucius was traveling around the world and are not taught by Sizun and Sumu, we can still learn about the teachings from our ancient saints, from the grand predecessor. There was another reason that he wanted not to leave the world, because he said that we are not there with him. We are his family. I was very touched when I read that. That was in the book that I'm gonna mention later on. At age 93, he traveled to Indonesia temple opening. He knew his body couldn't last much longer. After the ceremony was over, he collapsed behind a closed door. He said, "Let's go back to Taiwan. I can't show my weak body to the New Tao group. I can't let them down." He secretly prayed to the god to pity him to go back to Taiwan Fusan safely. He knew it is time to go back to heaven, but wished to stay a bit longer because he still wanted to watch over the Tao affairs. One day, together with the Fusan members, he finally light up the bundle of incense and beg Lao Mu to extend another year of his life so that he can complete his unfinished Tao affairs. He was always concerned about the future of Fusan. Fusan is a place that he lived until he passed away. Whether people would lose their direction and waste all their time. At age 94, many places from different countries wanted his visit and blessings. But he said, even I want to go, but my body just would not cooperate. At age 95, he left the secular world. However, he channeled in Taiwan during 2005 and gave a holy name, Bai-Shui Lao Ren. A Tao senior said that grand predecessor had once stated that Sizun said, as long as you are able to stand, go propagate Tao. If you don't propagate Tao, be sure to cultivate Tao. Grand predecessor vigorously and fearlessly Tao attitude is exactly the mirror image of Sizun's. During the awake ceremony of the grand predecessor, Taku, you guys remember?
Predecessor.
Right, and other Tao members were talking among themselves about how so many visitors from around the world came. It showed that he was devoted so much in Tao propagation and Tao affairs. All of them felt that they all need to learn from him to devote himself or herself even more. Anyone who had a contact with the grand predecessor knows that he was always treated everyone equally. He moved people by his words and actions. Another Tao member said that very often the grand predecessor's action touched the Tao members. One time, grand predecessor gave a cane to a stranger at the airport. This cane was a gift from the Tao member. From the Tao members. So he just gave that gift to somebody else because he saw somebody was really trying to walk. I guess he was really old or having difficulty to walk, and he gave that cane to him. He thought about others before himself. The year when Confucius' temple was completed, the grand predecessor went to Thailand and visited an old and most virtuous Buddhist monk. He gave him some books, and in return, the monk gave him a brass Shakyamuni statue. While rest at the Yinshan temple, he gave the statue to the temple host. Can you imagine a gift from our grand predecessor? Yeah. So again, he give out the people's gift to other. He really don't want anything. That's the impression I got. So it was such a surprise and joyful and wordless experience for the temple host. Okay. After the grand predecessor passed away, hundreds of thousands of people were heartbroken. No one wanted him to leave this world. He completed his holy missions. However, he had once said to everyone that he would be back again. Those words are still imprinted in people's heart. He was an incarnation of a Buddha, a saint. A bright star shines in the sky. The grand predecessor advised us that our Jigong living Buddha was once a human. Don't underestimate us. Didn't we hear that last class? Somebody said that. Right? Everyone can be Yao and Sun. He was honest with us about no one is perfect. He said, what kind of man was Sun? What kind of man am I? He who exerts himself will also become such as he was. as if we do what Buddha does, then we can become like a Buddha. He also often said, he who cultivates will achieve the goals. He who propagates Tao will attain ultimate realization. He is a layman like everyone else. However, everyone knows he is like a living Buddha. Nevertheless, the light of candle can go off one day. The flower will well someday. Our physical body can't last forever. Who's this person? Oh, Zhuangzi. Okay. So Zhuangzi said, a piece of firewood burns out instantly, but if we pass on the fire to another, it will never be extinguished. Did I pronounce right? Extinguished. That means gone. It is speechless when it comes to describe completely about the entire life of our grand predecessor. This is the book I got while I was in Taiwan last year, and it wasn't easy getting it because it wasn't a book that just published any bookstore. So I actually had to make a phone call to the publication. Forgot the name of it, and so this came by mail to me, and I was so excited. So I finished the whole book, and I thought it's good to share because it's written by, I'm guessing it's one of the Santai that grew up with him at Fusan, and she basically illustrated how he, as a person, right, and how he's teaching here, his living attitudes, his teachings, and how he faced situations. And there are stories about, for example, the Tao ceremony. Okay. Living attitudes. So he really cares about how other divisions are doing. And every time there's channeling, he makes sure that he gets all the sutras. He wants to read all of them because in a way it tells him how that division is doing. Okay? And after that, he will ask somebody to organize them and to bond them together. Oh, okay, I don't know what this is called. But he liked to, well, everywhere has a kitchen, right? And over at Fusan, right, there's this old-fashioned cooking stone that he doesn't want anybody to throw it away. He does not want any upgrade, to the gas stove, whatever, because he believes that gas stoves are like slow poisoning from the gas. And plus, when you do chopping wood to make fire is part of the training. Qinjie, do you know what I'm talking about?
It's like stone, you feed the wood and it's fire. It's just, those ancient stones.
Yeah. So Fusan has that.
Yeah.
There's a little hole, say keep pushing the wood.
Yeah.
It's like a mini fireplace, and then you just, cook from there. Yeah.
So
Is good in
Yeah.
right.
Then they use clay pots.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it's clay stone.
No, the pots they use are old-fashioned clay pots.
Oh.
And because it adds taste to the food. I think that's why they use that.
But he doesn't want gas stoves.
I will think that's so cute.
And
Because
It's basically a wood burning stove.
Yeah.
you gonna build one? I don't know how to build anything.
use your fireplace.
Bring a fireplace.
So each meal, he proposed 3 dishes and 1 soup. If there are visitors coming to Fusan, it will be 4 dishes. Breakfast is always at 7, lunch is always at 12, dinner is at 6. This reminds me of the Diamond Sutra, chapter 1, where, the Buddha is doing his daily things. He gets up, he gets dressed, he goes out and beg for food, come back, sit down and eat and wash his dishes. So there's that routine thing that he's always following. He only spent 5 minutes eating. Can we all do that?
I know he eats fast. We
Yeah, there you go.
So he doesn't slowly enjoy.
As he's done, he leaves the table and
Yeah.
the rest of us is still
So there's a reason for that. I found out in the book. He said he doesn't want. I don't know if he said. I think he said. Okay. So he said he doesn't want people to feel uncomfortable. The old way of eating is a round table.
Yeah.
It has another layer that turns.
Yeah, lazy
Like a lazy Susan.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
So that's one of the reasons. So one time a type of yam soup didn't turn out the right way, but he still drank it, right? He drank it anyway, and he called it the pot washed water.
I guess it's tasteless.
Yeah, it tastes like soup.
But he drank it. Okay, so another interesting happened about the kitchen is his cooking, about his cooking actually. So he will volunteer to cook every time there's a workout that needs to take place on the field, right? He sees everybody's busy, so he will spend his time in the kitchen alone by himself, nobody else, and he will prepare the meal for everyone, right? And then they're all wondering, each time his cooking all tastes different and they're very unique. What happened was that he will go to the refrigerator and use all the leftover in the refrigerator and cook everything all together. Serve you. He doesn't want to waste food, basically.
Yeah.
That's
That's
very.
why you want to cook by himself so nobody else sees it.
No, exactly. Because usually in the kitchen, we need at least 2 to 3 cooks to prepare, and Okay, so. All right, so one time, the author, this girl who wrote the book, she sat down and started eating on her own, and he said it immediately to her. There are still people in the kitchen cleaning up, not helping, eating by yourself already. Okay, another time, after he finished his meal, and he will watch others eat. This is another reason. Okay, everyone became nervous, and some of their hands started. They can't hold the chopstick well. They look like they're just crippled or something. And someone wanted. So this one girl wanted to pick up a stir-fry clear rice noodle, but they were very sticky and long. So she had to, stand up and try to only pick the portion that she wanted. So she was sitting and then standing like, try to separate the noodles, right? And when Lao Qianren saw that, and he said to everyone at the table, "You guys are not helping her. Not benevolence. How do you cultivate, or how do you even talk about cultivation? By looking at these typical small gestures, can't even help each other. Forget about other things when more serious things are happening." So everyone felt really embarrassed. So next time when similar situation happened, one would see there would be 7 to 8 pairs of chopsticks helping that one person. Then everyone would start laughing with each other. And so what happens is that Lao Qianren would teach at any given chance, at any time, to anyone. That's his attitude. So we learned that every young child stay with him must have learned how to pick up small peas using their chopsticks. He wanted to make sure that they know how to hold their bowls and chopsticks properly. He does not. So one thing he does not propose is getting food to others. What happens if you pick up something that someone prefers not to eat? So we really have to help ourselves when you pick food.
Because he doesn't want that person to throw it away.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So another interesting thing about this book that's mentioned in his living attitudes is every morning they the people who live in the Fusan, they have to clean the house. In the afternoon they have to work outside the field. He said, want to have no thoughts? Quiet time doesn't mean that you are still. Okay, my translation is probably off, but here's the idea. Quiet time doesn't mean that you're still. Movement makes stillness. This reminds me of an example that's mentioned in the 清净经 actually. 清净经清者浊之源，动者静之基，人常清净，天地习皆归. Okay, so just making you move to do things. Fusan is a rocky mountain. Oh, this is the funny part. Fusan is a rocky mountain. They, moving. So the author, she was told to move the rocks to make walkways. But she wants to go look for a male down member to help, right? So Lao Qianren asked her, male Dao king is a human? Aren't you human too? Since we're all human, he is able to move the rocks, why can't you? Go on. To gain strength, must train to use the strength. So she figured to ask another female to help. Finally, they finished the small walkway. After all kinds of physical labor, she rarely has any dreams at night. So here's the part. She noticed that at night became 1 second long. Can you relate that? In other words, she was just in bed, but it was time to get up.
She had a deep, deep sleep.
Once, I remember. Once.
That's why you gotta go and pick up rocks every day before you go to sleep.
Sometimes she couldn't even make back to her own bed and would just fall asleep. Later, she tried to go to the bathroom, but didn't know why she couldn't pee, even she went past by all bathroom doors. So she went back to sleep. When she went back to her room, she saw her body laying on the bed. Then realized it was her spirit who went to the bathroom. That was why she couldn't pee at the first time. It was really too exhausted to worry about anything. There we go, no thoughts. And was an experience of qingjing, I guess stillness. So he really wanted people to find Tao in their daily life. This, for example, this example is a physical training in preparing for them to focus.
We don't have to pick up rocks to do physical activities, exercise, whatever.
Sure, there are other things that we could do. Okay, so here a little story about his teaching. I think I'm... Okay, so Lao Qianren puts all efforts on learning sutras and scriptures. When he has time, he will write calligraphy and read. One time he wanted to find someone to teach the Book of Change, I Ching. Right? At the time, one lecturer came to teach, but he really wanted him to talk about the true meaning, not the feng shui stuff. Feng shui, is that right? Is that in English too? Okay, feng shui, right? Later, someone asked him why he didn't teach it himself. He said that he does not understand it. Then the author asked, why not? You lecture to us all the time. He showed his hand. I don't know how they, but you know, like this. You don't really know what this is or this. Right, so this or this, right? He showed this number 6 to her and said to her, I've read 6 different kind of it. Still don't understand it. Then he said, it's not easy. They were not sure if he was being modest. With each publication, the Book of Change is really so different and not explain its true meaning. Well, I remember hearing from Lecturer Liu, who said that almost all the publication talks about the change, talks about the ones that change, the ones that are changing, and they don't want to talk about the one that's not changing. No one wants to know the proper order of learning, which is to learn the one that is unchanged first. Do we know what we're talking about, unchanged? What's unchanged? What's unchanged? It's our Buddha nature. Right. Also, when people who had the knowledge from the Book of Change usually became very proud and would refuse to learn the one that's unchanged. They would say, if it is unchanged, why learn about it? Nevertheless, the point is that our grand predecessor has such great learning spirit. His attitude of learning is always getting to the bottom of it, never take anything lightly. That's the point. Okay, so, okay, so his teaching also includes looking for bitterness or hardships. Don't just look for good, nice, easy-going stuff and playing around all the time. The author thought, how do you look for hardships? We would just live day by day. She later realized that he meant looking for responsibilities. Because the more you do, the more mistakes you make. The less you do, the less mistakes you make. Doing nothing makes no mistakes. If you're to be responsible, you will have many challenges to face. And because the challenges, they make you grow stronger and be able to benefit to the sentient beings. If you don't take on any responsibilities and are afraid of facing difficulties, it means that you are wasting your life on this earth. Oh, he used that a lot. He used this line a lot. You're wasting your life. 你浪费你的生命哦。Okay, so he said that even though it is the time of a Confucius teaching, we still need to learn all of the sutras, especially the Da Zhang Jing or Tripitaka.
Tripitaka. That's all the Buddhist
Tripitaka Koreana, or Buddhist scripture.
Yeah, that's basically all the Buddhist scriptures. So that's a lot.
He said there are more than 100 volumes of it, but was condensed to one Diamond Sutra. One Diamond Sutra condensed to one Heart Sutra. He said, you see, there are too many volumes of Da Zhang Jing. One can never finish their study in one lifetime. Actually, these sutras are taught by Sakyamuni Buddha while he saw the 8,400 of the different interactions of human beings. It depends on where their background. But if you are able to find the right one that suits you, you can use it and practice it. However, he said, the more we learn, the better we are the more we learn, the better we are better prepared. How would you speak to someone who graduated from PhD and to someone who can't recognize the word? Once we find the right way for our cultivation, we don't give up, but keep on going until the end. The author mentioned, unfortunately, there are many people confused between Fa, Dao. Are you guys getting it? Fa, no, it's Dharma, right? What's Dao? Dharma is Dao, Dao is Dharma, but they're not equal. We will be wasting our time here if we don't know the difference. He asked about if we know the meaning of the beginning line of the Heart Sutra. Does anybody? 观自在菩萨. Right? It doesn't mean it's Guan Yin Bodhisattva.
Yeah, that's what most people think.
Also, 舍利子 does not mean 舍利弗.
Yeah.
One means look inwards. We all have the Buddha nature. The other one means only when one gets rid of the 5 skandhas, one would see their own true nature. 真心本体. He will ask Tao members, what is that? He will quiz you once in a while. So this is one of the questions. He asked the Tao members, what is the Heart Sutra and the Great Learning? Where in the Heart Sutra and the Great Learning have the same meaning, but the words are used differently? Virginia. Do you know?
Can you say that again?
大学
The great learning?
Yeah, in the Great Learning, there's a phrase that's similar or the same.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's.
Same with the first line of the Heart Sutra.
I guess it would be our bright virtue, right? Talking about bright virtue.
I-
Yeah, it's,
自在菩萨. Also our true nature.
会离灵德嘛。
Yeah.
He said the answer is 故是天之明命. With a smile. How do you guys study anyway? He asked. Learning one type is not enough. When learning multiple sources, be sure to know the meanings. Are important because their goals are the same. All right. Oh, this is interesting. We all need to know this. So Grand Predecessor sometimes would say that he wished Hu Daozang would have come with him to propagate Tao. I still don't know exactly who this person is, but he will sometimes mention it. So he said
One of the other Tao elders.
when he was in China, right? So he said this way he can show a play with him about propriety. So this is funny. He does not like the casual attitude where someone, or as one pleases attitude, like whatever in Taiwanese. Mama hu hu. Right? He does not like
Mediocre.
青菜啊随便
Yeah.
Whatever.
Ho hum. Like ho hum job.
Yeah. So he really dislike this kind of attitude. So one day he said he has been asked to do things for over 20 years. Everyone was puzzled and have no idea what he meant. Everyone thought, who dared to ask Grand Predecessor to do anything? He explained that he was always being told or commanded to eat his meal every time. Right? We're all confused what he's talking about. Right? They would say, please have dinner now. Right? When they see the Lao Chen, please have dinner now. 请用饭,请吃饭. Right? He said this is to command him to eat because he used the please you use please, right? So the Dao member asked him, what should we say instead? Then he will ask, 胡道长. He quote, okay, 道长, the rice is ready. Are you ready to eat? Does that sound better?
The conversation between them.
Oh, the decision is up to the person as to when she wishes to eat. Right? It was because it was not a question, but a statement. Therefore, after that teaching, everyone has corrected his or her speech.
How do you say in Chinese?
经典传师请用饭 right? Is
That's
that
how
what
we say it, yeah.
Right. He doesn't
But how does
understand.
our 前人 say it?
He said, 经典传师饭煮好了，可以吃饭了吗？饭准备好了，可以吃饭了吗？ Oh, so we have to use a question mark. So the decision's up to him. This is cool.
Because I always say 请用饭.
So you're commanding him to eat.
I didn't know because
You're
I was
ordering.
taught,
You're
I was
ordering
taught by
him.
another 点传师 from Taiwan to say that.
But not many people. I guess not many people know about this.
Yeah.
But he said 20 years you have ordering me to eat every time. You know, like he couldn't stand it anymore. So that's why he keep mentioning about 胡道长, right? So they can do a play. Like he will be the one, give the rice to him. 胡道长, 饭烧好了，请用饭. No, 请.
You could ask a question.
Yeah, so it's a question. You don't
Okay,
give.
then 可以用饭了
Could
吗
we
可以
start
用
now?
饭了
Could
吗？
we start a meal or have
And
a meal
I
now?
you know, because I'm brought up here, I never knew
That's
to
more
speak
kind.
is to 用饭. I used to say 点传师请吃饭.
Yeah,
And then 点传师 from Taiwan will correct me. You don't say that.
Well, see, to the elder, we should, yeah, we say 请用饭, but that's really, even though we think it's proper, that's really like telling them to please
Right.
have
To do it.
dinner. So we should ask, could we have dinner now? Right, like that. So that's a question.
Would you like to have the dinner now?
可以用饭吗? Like that. That's more.
Okay.
So just have
That's more
to think.
respectful.
That's
to the
interesting,
elder.
yeah.
Right.
So we have to reward things.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
可以吃饭了吗？
So phrase it into a question.
因为我们
to
端
ask the
水
elder.
也是要这样子咯。
可以用饭吗? Like that.
要喝水吗？
That's
不是要喝水吗？
So sad. Everyone sit down.
请用水吗？
And once you ask that question again. Right?
elder. We do that as a sign.
不是有没有水，请愿水。
Oh, okay. So
请用。
So the last one, I quote, too bright to fall asleep. Another experience with his teaching was about watching the television. One day, the author and other young girls wanted to watch or to finish watching the videotape of Zhuge Liang. It's a main hero of fictional romance of the Three Kingdoms, where he is portrayed as a sage and a military genius. At the time, there was only one television and one videotape player, and it was in an old room that Grand Predecessor used to stay. At the time, he already moved to another new location, but it was about one hallway away. So nighttime, three of them got together. They went to that room, turned on the TV, and lowered the volume to 0. Thought, this way no one would know. All of a sudden, they heard some kind of sound came from outside. When they turned around, right, it was Lao Qianren. And they all felt so scared, as if they lost their souls. 他们魂都没了，吓得。As you can envision, Lao Qianren is pretty strict. So anyway, they tried so hard to look for a place to hide. There's no. What do you think is in the room? Probably just few chairs. You know those big chairs, wooden chairs, right? So they tried so hard to look for a place to hide. They were so afraid that he would recognize who's who. It was still in the dark. However, not a word came out from him for a while. The girls thought maybe he was too angry and tried to hold on to his anger.
But he don't get angry.
This is the part we don't see. We're all human, right? So she took a peek at him. All of a sudden, he started to speak. Like, they were like, try to do this because they don't want to be seen. Right. So I don't know how you say it. Pasha. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
Pasha.
Lay down.
Yeah, because right. So one of them try to peek at him. Yeah, pasha. They're all pasha because they have.
Maybe they got to the floor and they tried to
Yeah.
Hide the face.
Yeah. So Lao Chen then started to speak. Right. He said, "Such bright light can't fall asleep." Then he left the room. Then the girls got up from the floor, wondered how come he just left without scolded them. They felt really stupid and quickly went back to sleep. Next morning, guess what happened? Nothing happened. But the girls were hiding around and didn't want to face him. Such hiding around made them tired and frustrated. They rather hear him say something to them. Later, they found out this was him using his wisdom. Even he was forgiving them, but it was also to teach them a lesson not to do it again. He knew that after all, it is their conscience, right, that they can bear with.
guilty conscience.
Their guilt. No, children. How to teach. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's probably the last.
Okay, yes. Let me just go quickly. Grand predecessors often have to face all kinds of situations between Dao members. One time, a group of people wanted to complain to him about something. All he did was put his hand in a round shape next to his ear and ask the person to repeat what he said. Not once, but more than once. Each time, he will ask the complainer to say it louder. 再说一遍. Okay. At the end, the complainer got tired. The person gave up. The person gave up and responded to the grand predecessor that everything's fine now.
There you go, problem solved.
Because he let it out of his system already.
He told him not to speak about other people behind their back. If you do, you are the one who is causing the problems. Okay, so that's the louder, please.
So this is what we all should do.
In the meeting, right? Anyway, okay. It's time. All right, we gotta hurry. So grand predecessors sometimes talk about the time about Dao ceremony when he was with the 18th patriarch. First, he asked, who holds the highest position? Then he said it was the temple master. Why? Because once the request is made, would you not listen to them? If they need a lecture, would you not go with them? So everyone listened to the temple master. People often like to ask grand predecessor to go because every time he goes, there will be at least 500 people receiving Dao. One trip would take at least 1 month. Everyone gets really happy. 1 month, one trip, 500 people at least receiving Tao. He would congratulate the new members, then ask them if their parents received Tao. If the new member said no, he would tell them, think about this. You go to the permanent heaven and your parents are not. They will end up going to the underworld. How could you see your parents in the underworld and you are in the heaven on your own? After he reminded the new members, they would feel sad. He then would say, let's go and get your parents to receive Tao. It turns out not only the parents, but the uncles, the aunts, and the friends were all receiving Tao. He said, if they don't want to, you kneel to ask them. At the time, they will always carry the 3 lamps everywhere he goes. His way of propagating Tao is timeless, and there's no time to waste. He said it's a life insurance. He even told the introducers that if one of them becomes the Buddha, you will be the head of Buddha. Okay, conclusion. Oh, alright, I'll have to skip that. Lao Chen had to propagate Tao diligently for more than 50 years. He fulfilled his lifelong commitment to arouse the universal truth and the value of life. He devoted himself to glorify the essence of Confucianism, having constantly admonished the restoration of ethics. Lao Chen helped eradicate evils and maintain social stability. For his eminent contribution to the society, he was awarded by the government of the Glory of Chinese Top Honor Medal. At age 95, Lao Chen answered the merciful call from the Lamu and returned to heaven. Throughout his life, he endured sufferings and hardships without complaint. He enlightened people without weariness. He adhered to his great vows without cease. His influence is widespread and far-reaching. His departure left countless Tao cultivators crying with the remnants of deep reverence and great gratitude. The end. Oh, so this is just some of the places that while he was there, he one is Yu Yuan, I guess.
Or is it orphanage? Or no,
Yeah,
it's like kindergarten? No.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like an orphanage.
Orphanage, yeah. And the other ones, Guangming
Yeah,
Ren Ai
that's
Jia.
old age.
Yeah.
Retirement.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
retirement.
that's at 10 yen for yen.
Yeah.
That's at
10 yen for yen.
Puli.
Yeah.
Puli, yes.
Yeah, Puli.
He's also somebody who always tell or who wrote this Bai-Shui the 100 Field Piety Sutra. He wrote that. So he wrote the whole thing. I think I'm just gonna conclude here. Anybody has any questions?
That was interesting.
Yeah. I just went through the book like pretty quickly because it was just so.
If you didn't tell us, we wouldn't know all these. Yeah.
It's kind of
How
personal.
he handle all these
Exactly.
things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he lived the Tao. I mean, he lived, the Tao.
Right.
So he didn't get angry when, normal someone get angry, right, and scold whatever, but he used wisdom to resolve the situation. Yeah.
Louder, please.
Yeah.
So the person really repeated it again.
Because he didn't understand. He
Yeah.
really
Exactly.
thought he
He
could hear.
didn't. And then at the end, it's like, I got it. Everything is fine now. So they all left.
One thing I learned from other video is that when you were strict with someone during class or meeting or whatever, then that the person is going to offer dishes during meal time
To make up for it.
make the person relax.
Okay.
Okay.
So, 班长.
What?
You have to say,
Oh.
what do we say? If you say anything
If I
wrong,
say anything wrong, I ask for forgiveness from
From heaven.
From heaven.
That's it.
Thank you.